Hargreaves, chance for Torquay! Chris Hargreaves, the captain! If he stays offside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benyon. Sells!
Hello and welcome to the latest Gull'S Live View, brought to you by Galaxy TQ. I'm joined by Chris.
Evening all, you okay?
Yeah, I'm joined by Tom.
Evening, guys. Season's greetings.
I'm joined by Dom.
I thought we were all going to wear hats.
And we're here to talk about the big game. Chipping at home, let's start there. Right, so we're going to the Oval in a minute, but as Tom's reminded, we do need to speak about Chippenham. I wasn't there. I didn't watch the highlights either in the sort of sulk. Who was there? Someone was there. Chris, were you there?
We're professional, Sam. We cover every game, don't we, lads?
Oh, yeah.
It was me. Yes, I was among the 768.
He was the chosen one, weren't you?
Yeah, I do the shortest straw. No, yeah. I mean, it was a wretched first 25 minutes. It was everything that's bad about this team at the moment. It was slow. It was ponderous, and there were some players in that team who really needed to make a point. Your Hansons, your Andrews, who were given an opportunity for a variety of reasons. Unavailability, shock horror, generally speaking, but and we were just slower to everything. Bear in mind, a lot of their guys had been to work that day, and we were just slower to everything. They were fast. They won every first ball, every second ball. They got in between the lines quickly. We didn't defend anywhere close to tight enough. And the first goal they just danced through. The second goal we had about 3 attempts at clearing it, couldn't do it, and someone smashed it in from the edge of the box. And we're 2-0 down. You thought, oh crikey, this could be a really desperate evening. But in fairness, again, as they've shown a lot, and as Gary said a lot, they pulled themselves together. They fought back. Corey Andrews, broke, saw good win. Keeper should have saved it really. And then after half time, we really came out and stepped it up in the second half, and it was everything that the first half wasn't. And they tired. They visibly started about 10 yards further back. And it didn't last long before 2 goals in the first 15 minutes. And at that point, there was a 10-15 minute spell where you thought, we can walk all over them and get 5 or 6 here. But then when we didn't, the nervousness stepped in, and then we stepped back 10 yards, and they only really had one chance when the defender got in around the side of Crowe, and Tomlinson blocked just as Halstead came rushing out. But it was comfortable enough. But when it's only ever one goal, it's never kind of that good. But a feeling of relief at full time. You've beaten.
It was a game you had to rotate on, wasn't it? But it just showed up our lack of squad depth.
Who shone and who didn't shine?
There's a lot of people climbing into Corey Andrews, Dom. But I see why.
I don't know why you're mentioning me on
that. The way that I would describe the way that Andrews played was, I said to my dad, he looked like a kid on loan from a championship club. He lacked awareness. He didn't anticipate things. He didn't stick his foot in. It was just considering this was his opportunity to kind of obviously Jarvis was carrying an injury, so Andrews, apart from he looked up well for the goal, but his general play
would a kid from a championship team look
good wins, okay, and Armstrong.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
It's that naivety.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hansen put himself about a bit in midfield and won a few tackles, but he also missed a few tackles and was teetering on the edge probably by half time, which is why he was withdrawn. But I thought Donnellan was strong again.
Donnellan.
He was the only one who stepped out. When they started sitting back kind of in the second half of the first half, he kept picking the ball up from centre back and just travelling 30, 40 yards with it. And because of the lack of movement and kind of mobility in midfield, he was the only one. Every time he did it, I kept saying, "Oh, look, it's him. He's done it again. He's picking up the ball and breaking the lines. He's
one of the few players to show professionalism continually.
Yeah. He's one of the only positives of this season.
And he stepped through. Yeah, I mean, Wern did nothing apart from score twice. In a kind of attacking way, but that isn't a bad evening as well. But yeah, I mean, it was all just a bit.
You're so tough on wingers, Chris. You are.
Yeah, but he does.
When they don't provide the end product, you have a go. Oh, they got there. When they do score the end product, well, he only scored 2 goals.
Yeah, well, yeah, clearly that
you're a hard man to please.
Tongue in cheek, the 2 goals bit, but in terms of what you need your wingers to be doing, in how you need them to be influencing the game, he doesn't. In that sort of game, he ironically could have had a hat trick as well. But he should have had a hat trick really towards the end. But I mean, in terms of the first half. Yeah, absolutely. The first half, it was.
I know what you mean, though. I know.
So apathetic. I mean, and in fairness, it was De Silva. We'll probably move on to, but again, it was De Silva's kind of pace and liveliness that kind of kind of kind of got them on edge and kind of made them a bit uncertain. But there was very little end product again. With the silver on Saturday, whereas on Tuesday, hang on, was Saturday, Monday, but on Tuesday,
No idea what days.
Don't know the week is at the moment, but yeah,
No.
against Chippenham, let's say, he has to put a couple of crosses in beyond the strikers that weren't controlled and scored at the back post, whereas against Yeovil, De Silva was back to not having any end product, but you saw when there was end product, what you can find.
No, even though I do have a thing against FA Trophy, I only really pay attention if it's the last few rounds. I am pretty excited the fact we've got Taunton. We're not excited, but it's nice to have got Taunton at home. I would prefer Taunton away. I've definitely gone to that.
No, you
But
wouldn't.
Taunton, I wouldn't, no. But Taunton,
higher chance we would have lost that.
yeah. But like Taunton at home, that is actually quite an interesting tie to have.
Yeah, I'm going to the Taunton one. I probably wouldn't have bothered otherwise, but it's a good old tie in it to have.
Yeah, no, I do like that.
They'll definitely bring a few down as well.
Yeah, so make for a decent atmosphere.
They'll bring some noise.
And unfortunately for us, we saw what they're capable of because they beat Yeovil in the FA Cup, didn't they? So didn't concede a goal in 90 minutes and 120 minutes against them. So it's going to be no pushover with it.
But then I suppose Chippenham did beat Lincoln in the FA Cup, and okay, it's the FA Cup and all that, but they are second from bottom in the National League South, and that first half performance.
I couldn't stop thinking about that all of the first half.
It was literally just
these blokes went to work today.
We're sugarcoating over that, Tom. We're sugarcoating over the
But let's be frank.
They're a top team.
At 2-0 down, from what I can remember of the highlights, they had another couple of chances just before we got back into it. So it could have been
one good save. Yeah,
heck of a lot worse. I don't know whether Gary intended to have Jarvis and De Silva come on for the second half before the game.
Jarvis was injured. He said Jarvis wouldn't have been involved if had the game been on the Saturday. But I don't know about this because he got hooked at Oldham, didn't he? So whether it was a tactical thing, but yeah, I mean they made a big difference for sure.
But yeah, De Silva definitely changed the game, and it was important as well that we got that goal just before half time. I mean, obviously relieved that we've got through to the next round. Obviously, I said in the last video, couldn't give a toss if we'd have lost that. But yeah, just from a confidence point of view,
you just don't need it on top of everything else.
Especially at home,
in a game like that.
at home as well. Like the form at home this season is abysmal, which we'll get into later on. But from a confidence standpoint, we had to get back into that game. Yeah. And again, we've shown that we can come back from these situations. But the quality of side that we're having to come back against, it doesn't really give you confidence going into next year and the battle to try and stay up in this division.
It meant very little again, did it? Let's be honest. If we'd have lost 3-2, it would have. I think it made a lot of difference to our confidence at Playmore. It's all about the league, isn't it?
To be fair, we're going to Yeovil then. Like, did it really make any difference if you look at it? No. I'll say my bit actually. I was there for this one.
You did make the effort for this one.
Well done, Sam. Good man.
Well done, mate. So my
had to leave for Football Manager for a whole 3 hours.
I'm enjoying my break away from actual football for my football. And then he made me write. I haven't wrote in ages. I actually do writing now. So I'll say similar to what I said in the report. It had all the hallmarks of a team that was literally at the bottom of the league. We come out all right. Obviously, you got the sort of scrappy goal. And I thought we had a few good chances. Where another talkie team would probably kill Yeovil off, like we did last season before. Obviously didn't take them. We move on to that a bit, and then Yeovil came into the game. I mean, Maguire drew. Oh my god, we say about wingers and all that, but just how they got in. He's just, even when like they were losing, he's just causing. You didn't realise it much at the time, but when you watch the highlights back, I think he's literally every time Yeovil have the ball, he's running through him. And our standards have gone down so much over the last 6 months because of the players, but that is just a brilliant National League winger and something that other players strive to be. Anyway, they get back in the game. Halstead's brilliant goalkeeping. Ellis was brilliant, all that stuff. And then just the second half, what do they do at half time? Like, what do they do? I don't understand. They just come out. We were very lucky to sort of not concede early on. But it's just the mentality of the team. And obviously, we're moving on to the goal in the last half an hour and a bit. But you just saw it coming, didn't you? You just saw we just weren't going to hold on. But
nobody in the stadium was surprised when you scored with it. It was like, that was coming.
You know,
wasn't it?
We didn't take our chance. If you don't take your chances when we had to, you know, there was a decent team going forward at times. Now we've got wingers, and now, you know, but just at the back and just through the midfield, it was just not good. Now I want to say one bit, because I've got a few people disagree, which I'm fine with. That's totally, and I probably do see it. But like Brett McGavin, the point I was making in my written report is that he obviously, if you sit there and you think, oh, we've watched Armani Little, who's ridiculous, he's like League Two standard at least, and you expect Brett McGavin to be like him, it's not going to happen, I'm afraid. But like Brett McGavin's still way off where he could and should be. But I just felt he was actually making passes in between and linking things nicely. You know, if he had more midfield three, so you had like him and Evans or whatever, and then the Lapsley when he's fit or whatever behind, it'd been much better. But I actually thought McGavin was doing a lot of good passes in the first half. In the second half, it just get swamped. You know, it's absolutely overrun.
I think I'm going to support you here, Sam, because I think the problem with players like McGavin are that they are players who try to do things.
Yeah,
they try to make things happen. They're not players like Tom Lapsley, with the greatest respect to him, don't try and make things happen. What their role within a team is very functional. Players like McGavin, their role is to be creative, and their role is to. I mean, you saw with the first Chippenham goal in midweek last week, he gave the ball away, trying to turn quickly, pop a pass out wide, and get an attack going. Someone gets a foot in, they break and score. But and the problem with players like McGavin is that when you're trying to make things happen, it won't always come off, and that you will give the ball away.
Teammates who aren't making
absolutely, and you're as good as the teammates around you.
In the first half of last season.
But what I liked about McGavin in the first half on against Yeovil was that he actually dictated the tempo of the game a bit around him, and he was picking the ball up, and he was moving the ball, and he was finding people either side of him and forward when he could. But when I saw the makeup of the team, I said I hate to be proven right, but I said to my dad that that midfield four, but the two in the middle particularly, one of two things will happen. It will either dominate the ball and dominate the game because they're both two attack-minded players who will want to get on the ball, want to get forward, want to get on the attack, or will get overrun because they've got no defensive.
20 years ago, the first was more likely, but football has moved on. You don't put two very good.
I think the trouble we did have on Boxing Day is we didn't have enough midfielders.
No, we didn't have the players available.
We could play. That was the trouble. He doesn't trust fit. Lapsley's not fit.
If Lapsley's
fit,
he
still wouldn't have played him.
So if we had more than one capable centre back, Donovan wouldn't have to play centre back. He would play in midfield. So,
and I think the other problem as well is that Ryan Hansen should have started that game. Ryan Hansen is a midfielder who can play, who can sit deep, he can move the ball, he can dictate the play. But the problem is with the way that he has played since he's been at the club, he hasn't made himself selectable. He has not been saying you need a central midfielder. I'm your man. And the problem is, I'm ignoring you, Dom. But the problem is, I think he's a talented lad, and I think in time he will be a good footballer. But he's young, and his performances have not warranted being selected for a game like that.
I haven't seen any of this talent, Chris. When was it?
But this is the thing.
Can you pinpoint a game when he showed his talent?
No, I haven't seen it. There haven't been games. There hasn't been a specific game, but he's clearly a talented lad.
Where have you seen this?
You can tell from the way it's just like McGavin. Just from the way that they pick up the ball, they look up, they turn. The positions they try to get into, the passes they try to make, but they're both better in a good team.
I think McGavin's an easy player to look at and see his flaws.
Absolutely,
he's slow to do things. He's not fast.
McGavin's such an easy target.
You know, when you're slow, runner like he is, it's easy to pick on him. But he does try to make things happen. He can keep the ball well. His distribution is okay. He's worth having in the team, but he's a very easy guy to get on the backside.
That's my problem.
We're not giving him the best chance, are we, to achieve anything because he's not got any beef around him. If we had Josh Staunton, who played in midfield for the Oval, buzzing around him, winning the loose balls,
100%, yeah.
Then you've got a better team, haven't you? And we'd have won that game with.
We've got structure then. There's no structure. Like McGavin's such an easy target. He's had some shocking games, and he's been lazy, and we've called him out on it a lot of times. But now that I feel like he's sort of player where he can make about 9 or 10 passes, but he'll make like a couple bad ones. Everyone's going, "Oh, typical McGavin." He's,
But he puts good set pieces in, doesn't he?
Yeah, he puts him and Evans
in a few ways we're going to score, so he's worth his place in the team.
I also don't think as well that he in a midfield four, he's necessarily good enough yet.
No,
because your role in a four is much different to a 3 or a 4-3-2-1 or 4-2-3 or whatever it might be, because you've got to be forward, and you've got to be back, and you've got to be hard in the tackle, and you've got to use the ball. And I don't know, with him and Evans together, I mean, geez,
I
there
felt
was
sorry
no
for
steel there.
Goodwin. I felt sorry for Goodwin on Boxing Day
I thought
because
he
he
was
was
doing
he
well.
was charged with playing behind Jarvis and trying to help out midfield, trying to get on the wing, trying to be everywhere, and he struggled to get into the game.
I don't know.
at times.
It's touch let him out at times, but I thought he was just making things out of nothing. And I agree. You know,
Yeah.
this is the point. We've got a few good players because it's not structured properly because of what recruitment or whatever. It's been set up for failure. That's my point. Like if you had 3 central midfielders, maybe a bit more holding one, where a player like Hampson's probably been signed to do, if he was the player he should be, or if Lapsey was fit, or if Hull was fit for once, with more than 2 games, then like
you can't tell me we haven't had enough time to find somebody to replace Asa Hall. I mean, we've had enough time. We just haven't found
we
him.
all love Asa, but it's you can't.
But I suspect that's Ryan Hansen.
Yeah, it meant to be Ryan Hansen.
Different type of player though, Chris, isn't it? I'm not saying.
And of course, when Hansen did play at the start of the season, he played deeper than I thought he probably would.
Yeah.
Because when you saw him in pre-season, he looked like he liked to get forward, and from the highlights reel, which clearly are all a trick.
Well, the whole team was stood next to Holstead for the first 5 games, Chris.
Well, exactly. But of course, he was playing further forward. But then, of course, at the start of the season, he was actually playing quite as kind of the deepest line, wasn't he? Because Lapsey wasn't fit. And I looked at it and I thought, I don't know, that's where his strength is necessarily. But he's, I mean, he's had, Hansen's had availability issues, hasn't he? Just like Lapsey and Hall have.
Just a disaster, really, isn't it?
Such issues in the squad. It just one thing gets better, the other facets get worse, don't they?
And now
look at the continual problems going round.
Go on, Tom.
Story of the season. Yeah, let you guys speak because obviously I wasn't there and I wasn't able to follow the game on Boxing Day. But again, you go 1-0 up and we have that bit of a spell where we should score a couple, waste our chances, and then how many times this season have we had positive moments in games, like half an hour we've played really well, some great football, and then it all just goes to pot for the rest of the game. And it's going back to, again, not learning from our mistakes.
I'd say 2 phrases for me: game management and lack of backbone.
Game management, terrible.
We haven't got either of them.
I mean, we've got no, and when you've got the worst home record in the division, 1 win all season at home.
Keeper, who almost threw it in his net a couple of times, so that's fine. He didn't. Has to make another 6 or 7. What did you say after Oldham? 6 or 7 key chances. He had to make another 6 or 7 saves, probably like 5 or 6.
We were lucky to score that one though. I mean, the keeper.
Yeah, the keeper should. He was a good keeper. Should have done much better.
Keeper should save that 100%. But the equaliser goal, that we missed. They get the goal kick, play it quick, and just look at our back line. It's shambolic at the back there.
I was absolutely livid, like all of them. And then like that chance that Ellis was outstanding, and we'll get to his injury in a minute. But then it sum it up, right? We're going to Corey Andrews quickly because he comes on, he looks natural after running, right?
Don't rile me up.
It's a 3-3, and it ends up he does one of the worst passes I've seen. Just doesn't look like a footballer. They put one ball. Ellis goes to do an offside trap, thinking he's playing. The other 2 are like, and then they're through on goal. And if any other probably player in the league probably finishes in that, but he just got to him, didn't take a touch, and he allowed Halstead to make a great save. So it's
we were making them look like Brazil going forward at times. Second half.
We always do this. Scunthorpe at home, they're even worse than us, and they outplayed us all that second half.
Yeah.
Oldham outplayed us. We make average teams look good.
Was that McGowan handball? I said
it.
It looked like it.
I thought at the time it was, but I think it had already gone over.
I think it hit the top of the bar, didn't it?
I hit the top of the bar, or he's done it through the net. But
I don't know why you do that. As much as anything, because it's just like something that happened in the Championship, wasn't it, last week? Yeah. Exact same thing happened, and the bloke got sent off. It got rescinded because he didn't touch it. But I think that there were 3 things probably about the Yeovil game that annoyed me and kind of found. I think the first thing is the classic first half. We were the better side. We had half an hour where we were comfortably on the front foot. Keeper didn't make a save. We had several opportunities rather than chances.
And it was the last touch. When he got put through and he
had a moment, didn't we, when Jarvis... Yeah, there were a couple of players through and he didn't pick the pass. Yeah.
Jarvis, the chance Evans had when he took all night to try and get a shot off. And we had real opportunity in and around the box to have really scored again. The cross to Silva had, when all he had to do was... Wern should have played Jarvis through, but he played a good ball out to Silva. All he had to do was find one of 3 3-on-2.
Yeah.
And all you had to do was find one of 3 heads, found the overhead, which is a punt into the box. It wasn't a cross right. That's going on your head. So that, I think, and then at half time.
And we said that.
Yeah, go on. Absolutely.
Sorry, Chris. I was going to say we said that about the overall season, haven't we?
Yep, absolutely. And so at half time, and then I was trying, Dad and I were saying, well, of course, the challenge is, which Gary said, can we play for 90 minutes? Because we've been the better side for 45. Can we push it on and then be the better side? I'm afraid to say, and it's not about having a pop at Gary, but we got done tactically in that second half, and it was abysmal because they made a double change. They brought they brought 2 big lads on up front. They went 3 at the back, and we got swamped in midfield. And he said it, and he knew it, and we could all see it within 5 minutes of the second half. McGavin and Evans had no chance in the second half. They just got swamped. And it wasn't about making substitutions or players that were available or players that weren't. It was about tactically adapting. And all it would have taken was to just drop one of the central midfielders slightly deeper, to just give a little bit more shield, maybe bring the side in a little bit more, because the runners just kept coming and kept coming. And we did nothing. And by the time he reacted, they'd already equalised. It should have been ahead. And then, and again, on the second half, we should have lost the game. Let's be honest.
Players need help, because they're not clever enough. They're not clever enough to work this out for themselves during the game. You haven't got Moxie playing, you haven't got Asa playing. So you really haven't got enough experience to work it out. So,
but you can't just stand there and watch it happen as a manager.
Yeah.
No, your job as a manager is to adapt. Their managers made 2 substitutions, changed their shape, and changed the shape of the game. We've just stood there and watched it happen. And again, on the chances they created, we should have lost.
But then look at the options that we had on the bench. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very
absolutely,
hard.
Absolutely, but I don't think it was about the players. You could have changed the structure of the team with the players on the pitch. I mean, I said to my dad, I'd have bought Hanson on in midfield or Lapsley, depending on who was fit enough. Bring another midfielder in there. Bring a bit of a shield in there. So whether it was De Silva that came off or Wern, narrow the pitch, and then Goodwin and Wern or De Silva could then go a little bit wider, and then you can attack with your wider midfielders and then your wingers when you're moving forward. But we just did nothing. We just stayed structured, and they just kept running past us. Look at the equaliser. Straight after the goal, they had the exact same attack. One long ball, one control, one
Wyatt completely out of position. Like, he was completely nowhere near him.
We've got a plan A, haven't we? The plan A looks okay, and then you need a plan B. You look around and go, oh Christ.
And again, the problem is forgetting who your next opponents are. It happens to be the same team. But if you were looking at those highlights, that chance that you talked about earlier, Sam, the one where Fisher had an injury time, pick up the ball, one ball, look up, one ball, 40, 50 yards, and the bloke's in 30 yards of space in on goal.
A better team, and we lose 5-1 like we did against Chesterfield. That is my problem with it.
Yeah. Can I just mention Wyatt? Because obviously he's come back from injury. I can only go by the highlights, but he just didn't see him pick up any man at all. It just seemed like
he was tired, wasn't he?
He was tired, but he was absolutely.
But this is the first half, Dom. I'm just going on the first half highlights. He's just stood around. He doesn't know who he's most supposed to mark. At least that's what I gather. Maybe you guys have a different opinion to me, being there live.
I thought he did all right, trying to give us a bit of balance first half.
I don't mind Ben Wyatt as a player, but I'll just, as I said in my report, I'll kindly put it down to lack of fitness and sharpness, because it was pretty dreadful in that second half.
It's been noticeable with Moxie at left back, and Moxie's great, and he's great at what he does, but it's noticeable he barely crosses the halfway line.
Yeah,
and it was noticeable, that extra width and that extra kind of shape.
I do
having
a
naturally
like
wided left player, but second half he did fade badly.
Yeah, which is why we had to change it. And
I mean, Crow looked all right, didn't he, in the first half, because the team were pushing forward, but
they got right.
He didn't have to defend.
He didn't have to defend.
As soon as he had to do proper defence,
Donovan and Ellis, absolutely superb, by the way. Donovan, really, really good in centre back.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, pink kit. That pink kit
did look good. Yeah, it did look good.
It looked really.
Yeah, it did look nice. Yeah, but the problem is then, so of course you then have the sending off. You have the injury, and now you kind of think, well, how on earth are you going to patch a team together in 5 days' time? That's going to be, because let's face it, it's a game we now have to go and win. We had to win on Boxing Day, but now we haven't. It's a game we really have to win.
Yeah. No, it's worrying.
January.
It's all right if you got subs who can come on and make an impact in here, but when the subs come on, you get worse. You're in trouble, aren't you?
We've got to get 11 on the pitch first, Tom. What about the subs?
On Boxing Day, we had subs, but none of them were fit or decent. Or Omar running long left wing. I mean, that was just a laugh, wasn't it? Just
and that's the problem.
Panto's
in the crowd, couldn't you?
God. No, and can we just say the ref? I thought he was okay, or he's actually quite in our favour, actually, a few 50-50s going our way. And then how's that? Both were red cards. Crowe should have been sent off. But what another day, Mike. He was a little bit unlucky, but it was also clumsy.
Well,
How
both those
is their
decisions were in the
back
last minute, Sam, so it didn't really make any difference. Did it?
One foul on a yellow already, and then he's absolutely taken us out. No yellow card on a yellow.
Yeah, he should have got.
He'd been fouling repeatedly the whole game as well, hadn't he?
Exactly.
To number 2.
How are both not reds? It's just wrestling to get a grip. They're just so useless. If I don't know if they're corrupt or useless, honestly, at that point. It can't be corrupt because we are having throw-ins, which were clearly Yeovil throw-ins during the game.
I would say on the Crowe one, I think there's 2 things that you notice. One, it's poor defending in the first place because he gets caught under it. Does he touch him?
It's decision making. As soon as you get close to him, he goes down.
Yeah. Did he touch him? No. Did the referee have to send him off? No.
I think he had to go. Once he'd given him the free kick, he had to go.
Well, but then as Sam points, and I think that was Gary's problem at full time, wasn't it? Was that having done the exact same thing, where he'd reacted and pulled Jarvis down, you then do nothing.
I think if we were mid-table, Gary Johnson wouldn't have got so annoyed. But I think it's just general frustration.
And if we were mid-table, you'd say, that was a good game. There was a lot of sort of drama, good chances, both things like that. But now it's a relegation game. How many times have we had those sort of 1-1 draws when we needed to win under Hargreaves and Neil when we went from League 2, and under Gary Hours as well when we went down? So it
felt grim, didn't it? Because we're 23rd. If we had been mid-table, we'd said, decent game.
That's a good game. Actually, we're not quite at the level, but
we all came out really angry and just fed up.
I don't think it was a referee performance worth getting sent off for as a manager. I've seen a lot worse.
I thought he's one of the better ones we've had this season.
Sums up, doesn't it?
Very erratic decision. He's always the same. They're very erratic decision making. You never can quite tell what he's going to. He let
things go. He did play on. I don't know. He didn't book anyone unnecessarily till the end.
It's interesting, isn't it? That kind of. He did let a lot of the physical stuff go, and as a fan, you want to see that. But the problem is where you draw the line, isn't it? Because there's a lot of shirt pulling, a lot of stuff that, whilst you're letting some stuff go, was just a foul that you then don't end up giving, which then can cause. But no, I agree. I think overall it wasn't as bad as some.
Not been happy with the rest of this season, has he, Gary? He's seems to be a bit of a scapegoat, the referees at the moment.
We saw Gary beforehand near the dugout. We were walking along, and you just tell he looked very tense and not happy at all. He just didn't have any. He didn't look like he was enjoying anything about this. He just looked very uptight. We wished him good luck, and he sort of barely turned around and said thanks, and he just looks very tense about it. You can tell it's getting to him, isn't it? It's getting to us all.
He must know that his neck's on the line, mustn't he? Crikey! I mean,
maybe recognise you, Dom.
Is it though?
Is it on the line?
Is it on the line?
I don't think it is. I think it would have been way past the line if it was on the line. You know what I meant?
I guess we can divulge into episode 2.
Yes, which I was trying to get a link. But well done, you gave me it there. We'll see you in. We spent a lot longer episode 1 than normal.
You're going to go past the Corey Andrews section, are you?
Yeah.
Just follow Dom on Twitter. You'll find it then.
Is that the late night one?
We haven't seen each other in 2 weeks, so it's been a longer part 1 this time. But we're going to have it's a bit of an end of year special, if you can call it that. Not much special about Sporting Talk at the moment, but we'll see you then.